The small village of San Roque was quiet by day and whispering by night. It sat at the edge of a thick forest, its dirt roads lined with bamboo fences and nipa huts, and the only sounds after sunset were the soft chorus of crickets and the occasional bark of a dog. Yet, for as long as anyone could remember, there had been a night that everyone dreaded. Every full moon, a young woman from the village would vanish without a trace. No one ever saw them leave. No one ever saw them return. It had been happening for generations, so long that the elders stopped calling it a curse and began calling it tradition. In the week leading up to the full moon, the air in the village felt heavier. Conversations ended abruptly when the topic came too close. Mothers kept their daughters indoors after dark. The men, though outwardly unbothered, would sharpen bolos and hang bundles of salt by their doors, muttering prayers they did not teach to the children. The elders said the disappearances were the price for the village's survival. Long ago, when the river swelled and threatened to swallow the entire settlement, the people begged for mercy from the spirits of the forest. The floodwaters receded the very next day, but in return, the spirits demanded a debt. One woman every full moon. Laya had heard the story since she was a little girl. Her grandmother told her to never walk near the forest after sundown and never answer if she heard her name called at night. Laya had laughed it off as superstition until she turned 21 and realized she fit the unspoken pattern. Every woman who had disappeared had been between the ages of 19 and 25. That month, as the moon swelled toward fullness, her sleep became restless. She began hearing faint music at night, like a bamboo flute far away, and sometimes woke with the strange sensation of dampness on her feet. On the night of the full moon, Laya lay on her woven mat, staring at the ceiling. The light spilling through the window was unnaturally bright, bathing the room in silver. Her breathing slowed, her eyes became glassy, and she felt her body rise without effort. It was as if an invisible thread had looped around her chest and was pulling her toward the door. She stepped outside barefoot, her white camisole fluttering in the breeze. The soil was cool under her feet, yet each step left a wet print, as though she had walked out of a river. The village was silent. No dogs barked, no crickets sang. Only that soft flute music guided her toward the tree line. She did not notice the shadows moving between the trunks, keeping pace with her. She did not notice the way the moonlight seemed to bend toward one particular path, illuminating it more brightly than the rest. She reached the edge of the forest and stopped. Her head tilted slightly, as if listening to someone whisper in her ear. Then she stepped into the darkness without hesitation. Elias, Laya's childhood friend, had been waiting for this night. He had seen too many disappearances to accept them as fate. Armed with a bolo and a small oil lamp, he followed her at a distance. The forest was unnaturally still. His own breathing seemed loud in his ears. The deeper he went, the more it felt as though the trees were closing in behind him, sealing the path. Laya moved with unnatural grace, never stumbling over roots or stones. The flute music grew louder, weaving through the air like smoke. They reached a clearing where the moonlight poured in like a spotlight. In the center was a pool of water, so still it reflected the sky perfectly. Laya walked to the edge, her reflection meeting her gaze. Elias stayed hidden behind a fallen tree, gripping his bolo. He watched as the water rippled and a figure emerged. It was a woman, impossibly beautiful, with hair like black silk that floated around her as if underwater. Her skin glowed faintly, and her eyes were deep and endless, like the river itself. She wore a crown of shells and pearls, and her gown shimmered like liquid silver. Elias recognized her from the old stories, the river bride, the spirit who had spared the village long ago. The river bride smiled at Laya and extended a hand. Laya stepped forward, but Elias could not move. His body felt heavy, his mind clouded. The river bride's voice was soft, but carried through the clearing. She told Laya that her time had come, that the village's safety depended on her obedience. Laya's lips parted and she whispered, "I am ready." She stepped into the water and the surface closed around her without a sound. Elias stumbled forward, the spell breaking as Laya disappeared. The river bride turned to him, her smile fading. She told him the debt could not be broken, only replaced. If he wished, he could take Laya's place. His heart pounded. The thought of her gone forever was unbearable. He stepped toward the pool, but the cold rising from it bit into his skin like knives. He realized then that the choice was not about love, but about surrender. To take Laya's place would mean becoming part of the forest, bound to the river bride for eternity. Before he could answer, the water began to churn violently. From its depths rose pale hands, too many to count, reaching upward. Faces appeared beneath the surface, their mouths open in silent screams. They were the women who had been taken before, their eyes glassy, their bodies suspended in the dark. Elias staggered back, his courage shattering. The river bride's smile returned, tinged with something cruel. She sank beneath the water, and the pool returned to its perfect stillness. Laya was gone. Elias ran back to the village, but the path twisted and changed. It took him hours to escape the forest, and when he emerged, the moon was gone, replaced by the pale light of dawn. The villagers were already gathered, their faces grim. No one asked where he had been. No one spoke Laya's name. It was as if she had never existed. Over the next month, Elias became a shadow of himself. He stopped sleeping, haunted by dreams of the pool and the river bride's eyes. Sometimes he woke with wet footprints leading from his bed to the door. He knew the next full moon would claim another woman, and he could not bear to see it happen again. He began preparing an offering, bundles of salt, woven talismans, and a small carved idol from the oldest hut in the village. The elders warned him it was useless, but he refused to listen. When the night came, he followed the next chosen woman into the forest. This time he stepped into the clearing before she reached the pool. He placed the offering at the water's edge and called out to the river bride. The water rippled, and she appeared, her beauty as terrible as before. She looked at the offering and laughed softly. She told him the debt was not one of objects, but of life. He could not buy the village's safety with gifts, only blood would suffice. Elias gripped his bolo, knowing what she meant. If he killed the chosen woman before she entered the water, the river bride would have no claim on her. But the river bride warned him that breaking the pact would bring the flood again, drowning the entire village. He stood frozen, torn between saving one life or many. The woman stepped past him, her eyes vacant, and waded into the pool. The water swallowed her without a ripple. Elias dropped his bolo and fell to his knees. The river bride's voice was the last thing he heard before the flute music faded. She told him the debt would never end, and that he would watch it be paid again and again until he could no longer bear it. Years passed and Elias grew old. Each full moon, he sat at the edge of the forest, listening to the flute and watching another woman vanish into the trees. No one else followed. No one else tried to fight it. The village remained safe, untouched by flood or famine, but its people carried an unspoken grief. They did not build memorials. They did not keep the names of the vanished. It was the price they paid, and they had learned to live with it. On the night of his death, Elias dreamed of Laya. She stood by the pool, her hair floating in the water, her eyes still glassy, but her lips curved in a faint smile. She reached out her hand, and he took it. The cold enveloped him, pulling him down into the darkness. The last thing he saw before the water closed over him was the river bride, her crown gleaming in the moonlight, her eyes fixed on the next full moon. And so the village of San Roque remains. Every month, the moon swells and the flute plays, and another woman walks into the forest, never to be seen again. The villagers whisper that one day the debt will be paid in full, but the river bride knows better. The debt is endless, and she will collect it for as long as there is a moon to light the way.